Right, shaker cards. So when it comes to shaker cards, or not just shaker cards, shaker bottle tops, as we're doing, there's two ways you can do them. You can either do it whereby it cuts into the card like this one, or you can cut your shakers out and layer them on top of your cards. So this way is a little bit easier. I'm actually going to show you the slightly more complicated way with this one, and we're going to go one step further and we're going to emboss onto here as well. So let's have a little start here. What I've done is I've got my base piece of card and I'm going to get my shaker die out, and what you'll notice with these is all of our shaker dies are thicker than a regular die. So a regular die is 0.8 millimeters. The ones that we do for shakers are 1 millimeter, and that's to allow it to go through the foam as well if you want to cut out your shaker foam. Now, bit of a tip, you'll find I use these differently to how I try and show you normally. I do it how it says in the instruction book. But what I do is I put my die, so I've got my base plate, then my frosted, then my magnetic, and I position these all in place so that I can use this as a positioner. So I can hold this in place to kind of position around. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double cut at the same time. I'm going to cut one out of my brown cardstock, and then I'm going to cut one out of the white cardstock at the same time, just because I don't do things by halves. And if we can save 10 seconds through the machine, we will save 10 seconds through the machine. And because the dies are a little bit thicker, they will allow you to cut through those two layers at once. Absolutely no problem at all. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to cut out some foam. So while those dies are still positioned in place, so there's the die that I want. All right, and that is giving me the background piece to work from. While that's still in place, I'm going to get out a little bit of our shaker foam. So nice big piece here, and I'm going to cut this. And we do sell this, so it kind of sells by the sheet as it was. So I'm going to cut into the sheet of shaker foam, which will give me that whole raised up 3D-ness. And then what you also need is you need a piece of acetate cutting that we can put behind our main piece of cardstock. So a few bits that you need to cut in total. There we go. So here's now our shaker piece all cut out. And I'll take that die out. Your acetate, now if you don't have any acetate, great tip. What you can do is you can use these here. All right, so these work an absolute treat as piece of acetate. For this card here, actually, I've just thought we don't need to cut it out because we can just stick acetate all over the back here. So I hope I've got a nice piece of acetate. And if I don't, we will just do exactly what I've suggested and use one of my bits of acetate out the packaging. So let's have a look. I'm sure one of these will have some. There it is. See what I mean when I say everyone's got a piece of acetate in the packaging? So we're going to stick that behind. Now, before I do that, I'm going to run this piece that we've just cut out. She says optimistically, where's the piece that I've just cut out? Here, right in front of my eyes. Here we go. We're going to run this through that embossing folder. So the embossing folder that I'm going to use is the one that looks like a starburst. So I'm going to position this so that it looks like we've got a starburst inside the champagne glass. And it bursts all outwards, so you can see that there. And I'm going to position that between, because it's a regular embossing folder, it's just going to go in between my two pieces and send it through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use a little bit of ink to kind of give that a little bit of inking and shaping. It's a brilliant technique, this one, where you're actually cutting into the front of a piece of cardstock, so then you can do things like your embossing on there. Now let's have a look. Nice embossed colour. I think I'll use, here we go. Yeah, I think I'll use a little bit of honey pot, maybe mix in a tiny little bit of Bordeaux to go here. So a bit of honey pot down on there, and I'll pop a little bit of Bordeaux in there just to darken it up a little bit. So mix all that together, and then I'm just going to go ever so gently over the top, just to give that a bit of a burst coming out there as well. So you're just catching over the top of the embossing here. And then that there is going to stick onto a piece of acetate and just cut that completely out. Now I'll just give my table a little bit of a rub down here so we don't end up getting so we don't end up getting ink onto everything else. And then actually, because that acetate's got a little piece of sticky on that I don't want. Here's the one. We'll stick it down. We'll stick it down. I was going to say, I've got one that I already stuck earlier. There we go. I'll just take this off. Here we go. A little bit of tape off there. They've all got this little bit of tape on just to hold the products in place as they come through. There we go. Perfect. So this is going to go onto there, and you need to make sure you put adhesive all the way around the outside. So you want it all the way around the outside, but not just around the outside of the cardstock. You need to go now around the outside of where we've done our die cutting as well, because we want it to stick really thoroughly. There we go. And then that is going to pop onto the acetate here. It's easier to stick it down and then trim it later. So I'm going to stick that down there and then give that a little bit of a trim. Now, what you'll notice is this is exactly the right size for that piece that we die cut out, which can now go and piece back in here. So you'll see what I mean. This piece here, if I give that a little bit of sticky as well. So I'm going to just use my dotty tape pen for this one. That will go perfectly into here. It's a little bit like paper piecing. There we go. I've stuck the white piece in that we took out. Don't need you in, just need the brown piece. I should have known that when it had a white background. There we go. So that is going to go and piece perfectly inside of here. And what you'll find is it will also be flush with the top of that card piece. So that's completely flush to the top there. All right. And then it's really bothering me that I haven't quite got that in the middle. So I'm just going to trim that up. Here we go. Trim that up so that it is slightly more central. There we go. Perfect now. Always get it right. Second time story in my life. Right. Here we go. Now, if I take this out here, all we actually need is foam around this part. However, what I think I'm going to do is stick the foam all around here so that we've got our foam, so it's really raised up. You'll see what I mean here. So if I can use this for another shaker card, so I would keep that piece ready, take this piece here, and I'm going to get that shaker, and I'm going to stick this perfectly over the back here. Oh, you stay there. And it's just a case of getting it perfectly lined up. The important bit is getting it lined around here. That's it. And then we don't need this extra piece here, so that'll just cut away. There we go. So that there, we've got a perfect shaker space for here. And I will just cut a little bit of this because we don't want our shakers falling down the middle there. And like I said, that piece comes in handy for if you're doing another regular shaker card. I'll just piece into there. Perfect. Now get your shakers. I did get them out ready. Yes, here we go. So we're going to get our shakers. We're going to pop a few shakers into here. Not too many. There we go. A few shakers into the base there. And then you can peel off the backing of your shaker foam. We're going to get that lovely 3D lift all over. And then I'm just going to place a piece of card all over the background here. I probably won't have it perfectly lined up in the centre because I'm trying to do it back to front upside down. But we can always trim it. Oh, actually, I haven't done too bad there. That's pretty central. Maybe it's a tiny little bit off the edge here. That gives you a whole shaker piece. The whole thing is raised up. You've got your shakers inside, but it's into the front of the card. And then what you're going to do to finish this off, you see, is I've got the, I've just cut this out, die cut a little circle to go over the top of our bottle. This I'm going to just stick flat onto the base of the whole thing. There we go. And then just to add a little bit more decoration to it all, you'll see in with your shaker card, you get all these extra bits and pieces. Here we go. Let me just put the lids on all of my ink pads here. Right, in with the shaker card, you get all these extra little bits and pieces, these little stamps, which will just enable you to finish that off perfectly. And I've stamped the Drink Me and the little stick coming out the top. And then I've also just done a couple of the little flowers from this collection. And I just think that'll just finish it off quite nicely. Use my hot glue gun for this. A couple of little pieces on here. Tiny little stick. In fact, let's have a look. I'll put a couple of little bits down here like this. Get them lined up on there. Got my little Drink Me part. And then a couple of little tops on here. Drink Me. And what a lovely quick little project, but it's wonderful knowing how to do those 3D shakers into the front of your card. So yes, I've made that onto a nice wall, you know, bottle hanger, but that would be exactly the same technique if you were making that on the front of one of your cards.